So, nearby Nisha, you ready to talk about a ghost?
Yeah, sure.
Throughout all of human history, we've been fascinated by the unknown. We tell ghost stories around the campfire. We'll often watch videos of strange creatures lurking in the woods. And we'll eat anything from a Taco Bell menu. For most of us, it's all just harmless fun. But for the residents of Arizona in the late 19th century, it was far from that, because they were being terrorized by something truly horrifying. I knew that was gonna...
Truly bizarre.
Truly bizarre. Just carry on from that. They were something truly horrifying. A demonic skeleton riding atop a blood-red, murderous beast.
That sounds real.
This video that we're recording now was originally going to be part of one of my lists, because we got the new list format, but it was so interesting that I had to make it its own video. So, have you heard anything about this before?
No.
As the title demonstrates, we're talking today about a skeleton riding a camel in America.
It sounds like something from a kid's TV show.
It does. It sounds so ridiculous. That's why when I saw it, I was like, I have to look more into this. So apparently the legend began in 1883. So picture the scene. We're at a ranch in Eagle Creek in Arizona. And living at this ranch, there are two ranchers, their wives, and some children. These two ranchers are checking on the cattle, and the two women are in the house, when one of them decides to go and get water from the nearby spring. The other woman, after a short amount of time, starts hearing the dogs barking outside, and then they're followed by a scream. So she heads to the window and starts looking out, trying to see what's happening. And that's when she sees what she described as a giant reddish beast with a devil riding it.
The devil?
A devil. The devil. Why are you laughing? This is terrible. It's a ghost story.
I know, but...
Be scared.
Yeah, but aren't we both skeptics?
Yes.
So, I mean, like, I've said it before, when I watch horror films now, I can't help but laugh. So, I turn to paranormal footage where people have captured real ghosts. I'm like doing air quotes here. And I thought they were scary, but now I laugh at them. Yeah,
so Nisha and I are very big fans of Nuke's Top 5. Nuke's videos we used to get scared at. But nowadays when we watch them, every single one is just like, that's clearly fake. Like, that's obviously just one of their mates wearing a sheet over his head. Or that's obviously just the person who was behind the camera just saying something loudly. Or it's obviously editing. And it's a shame because they used to really creep me out and now they just don't. But if you'll cease your laughter, because we're not finished with the story, the woman, she sees this creature. Terrified, she barricades herself in the house and she waits for her husband and the other rancher to come back. So when they return, they all go out and they look for the scream, like what happened to the other rancher's wife. And they find her dead.
Oh shit.
So she's dead. She's been trampled by some kind of beast. And they describe the marks that are left as being twice the size of horses. The only evidence they have apart from these marks is some reddish-brown fur that's been caught in a bush. The local authorities initially assumed that the woman who heard the noise that saw the creature was making it up. Like, it sounds absurd. But they couldn't explain what happened, so the death was ruled as like an unknown circumstance. We don't know what caused this.
Unsolved mystery.
Yes, and this is where it begins, but nowhere near where it ends.
Oh god.
So a few days after this, some local prospectors were camping in an area nearby when they were walking at night by what sounded like these horrific monstrous screams and the thundering of feet. So they all tore out of their tents and they saw what they described, again, as a giant red monster disappear into the darkness. And again, these giant hoof prints were everywhere and reddish hair found at the scene. And this continued for a long time. These sightings became more common. There was one particular one where a guy said he saw the creature and he chased it and it vanished into thin air. And believe me, they get more ridiculous.
Oh,
there's another one where someone said they saw this beast murder and eat a grizzly bear.
I'm just wishing they had mobile phones back then.
Well, this is the thing. We're talking about found footage and ghost pictures and stuff earlier. Why do they always record them on the worst cameras?
Potato quality.
Potato quality cameras. They're always watching it and it's like, oh, we got this really good ghost sighting, and they're recording it on their super HD, and then it cuts to the actual footage and you can't see a fucking thing.
It's to make it more believable. It's like, well, this is clearly a person or something. So if we compress it, it would just look like a spooky shadow figure.
Yeah, but then you and I watch Ghost Files from Watcher as well.
Yeah.
And Ryan said in one of the extras, Ryan said to Shane in that, you complain when the quality's low because you say it's too low to see anything. But then when it's high quality, you claim it's fake. So the problem with like skeptics is that you can't really please us because we're always going to think it's fake regardless of the evidence.
I'm just thinking about my own like experiences. I just explain everything away.
Yeah.
Because everything can be explained away. Even when I was younger, in my bedroom, I had a door to the attic, and every so often I could hear like bits of dirt falling down the ladder, and that's quite spooky. I'm like, well,
did you ever have like a ball bounce down?
No, it was just like crumbly noises, and I was like, well, the attic's old.
I would not be able to. Like when I was a kid, I used to be like, I was frightened of my curtains. I had these curtains that had this flowery pattern on, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in a fat bar underneath, but there's a word for when we see faces in things, and I had that looking at these curtains, and I could see faces in very specific parts of the pattern, and I used to sleep with my duvet tucked under my neck because I was that scared that I would be bitten on the neck. So whenever I used to go to sleep, I would force my duvet under my neck. That's how scared I was.
Bitten on the neck?
Well, yeah, I think
it's like a vampire
ghost. It must have been a
ghost.
vampire thing, I don't know. But it wasn't ghosts, it was faces. It was faces in the curtains.
And like, vampire.
Thinking back to it now, it's I don't know why I didn't just say to my mum, just get her some different curtains, Mum, I hate them. I imagine she'd have replaced them or swapped them with a different...
Imagine there's a vampire stood, like hiding the face in your curtain, like, ah!
I thought you just say, imagine a vampire walks into my room and goes, it's time to suck your blood. He's put the duvet under his neck. Oh. The ultimate protection, a bit of soft fabric under sleeping boy's neck. I'm not even going to bother with him. Maybe it's coated in garlic.
Scared of duvets.
The new law for vampires, they're scared of duvets. That's why in Twilight, Edward Cullen just stands and watches asleep. It's because he can't go close to the duvet. He's petrified.
It makes sense.
New law for vampires now, everybody. Updated. So, long tangent, but let's get back to this creature terrorizing the Old West. So, the funniest story that came from this, the most absurd, was a story of some people that were transporting some caravans, like some wagons. And they said that what happened was a creature descended from the sky with giant black wings which blocked out the light.
Lucifer.
They described it as being over 30 feet high. And they said when it landed, it hit the ground with such impact that it caused an earthquake and that the wagons fell over.
Why do they get more extreme and outrageous?
This is the thing, like, I always find with these stories that people want their story to be more dramatic. So that
they get remembered.
Yeah, the longer the legend goes and the more ridiculous they get. But the funniest part about the story is that I found out when I was reading about this that they were transporting kegs of whiskey. So my theory is that they all just tapped into the supply and then got attacked by this creature and were like, oh, it was massive, wasn't it? Yeah. Probably tipped their own, like maybe drunk driving, maybe they didn't see it at all. But they also did find red hairs on the wagons. So this thing was there. And notice I'm pointing out, like, I'm actually saying something was there. Like, these aren't completely made up stories. As we'll find out later on in the video, something did attack these people. Like, this isn't just a made up legend.
Is it actually real?
There's a real thing. But, obviously, it's probably not a 30-foot tall, giant winged devil monster that likes whiskey.
We'd know more about it if that was the case. Like, this is the first I've ever heard of it, so I think like if it was real.
Well, I actually don't know how well known this legend is. Like, when I did the research, there were a few videos about it, but I found this by accident because I was looking for other cryptids. So, I mean, viewers in America may be fully aware of this thing. Like, I think there's a place in Arizona where there is a statue to it.
Oh, right. Well,
because it's a well-known thing in certain areas because of a particular, like, there's like legends attached to it, so obviously people know their own folklore. So the mystery of this creature that became dubbed as the Red Ghost, it's a good name, isn't it? The Red Ghost.
Oh yeah, so creative.
That's a cool name.
The Red Ghost.
The Red Ghost.
It's so white. But
the mystery started to get like a bit of like some answers when a man named Cyrus Hamblin managed to catch a look at it across a giant ravine. And obviously he was so far away and he was quiet. He watched the creature and immediately recognised what it was. It was a camel.
Oh.
So this
Okay.
so this creature that everybody had been seeing, like, he saw what it was. He saw that it was a camel. But the thing was that he didn't just see that it was a camel. It was a camel with a skeleton on its back.
So obviously the skeleton is not like, you know, a Skeletor character and is actually riding the camel. Is it someone who's... I'm assuming it's, in my head it's someone who was riding the camel and just died and then the camel couldn't get rid of it.
Well, we'll get onto exactly what happened in a bit, but it's better for the video, Nisha, if you don't perhaps spoil the mystery.
So
I can keep telling my ghost story before we get to the end.
I want to get a fact right. I have no idea.
Camel being ridden by a freaky demon skeleton.
Skeletor,
Yeah, and I obviously this bit wasn't in his account, but it definitely turned its head and looked at him.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, let's get some of the mystique back. There was a story a little later. I may be getting the timeline of this mixed up, by the way. Like, I apologise if the stories are all over the place, but there's another story where 5 men spotted this creature and they opened fire. They tried to kill it because they'd heard the stories and they were like, we got to take this thing down. So they opened fire and missed the creature. It escaped, but not before they hit something. And when they went to explore, like they went to find out what had happened, they found a human skull with flesh and hair still attached to it. Basically confirming what everybody had said, that this creature is mounted by a skeleton. Are you enjoying the story so far?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. I know it's like terrifying, but it's funny when you realise it's just a camel with clearly a dead person.
I like how I'm trying to sell this with all of the mystique of a ghost story.
Cut my bits out.
And you're behind the camera like, oh, it's just funny because it's clearly just a camel with a skeleton on it. Like, that's not already interesting in the middle of fucking America. From your responses, I'm getting that you don't believe that this was an actual, like, monster.
Well, no.
So about 10 years, 9 or 10 years after it had first been sighted, somebody named Mizzou Hastings, who lived just, it was a ranch just above the San Francisco River, he woke up one morning to find a creature that he identified again as a camel eating his turnips. So he... Why is that funny?
I don't know, just the word turnip's funny.
Anyway, he shot the creature. Took his gun out, put a bullet through its head, and he went outside to inspect. And it was, as we've already established, it was a giant red camel. But the thing that he was able to identify of it, that other people obviously didn't get a good look at, was that there were these leather straps tied very, very tightly around its body, and attached these straps with the remains of a human. So, the mystery's been solved. The red ghost of Arizona was, in fact, a red camel with a skeleton strapped to its back. But that's not the end of the story, because first of all, why is there a camel in America when they're no longer, I think camels haven't been in America for about 15,000 years. And we know they used to live there, because I think there have been remains of things found, and also the llamas and alpacas and things in South America are part of the same evolutionary tree. So we know that they were there, but they haven't been there for 15,000 years. But also, why is there a skeleton on its back?
Maybe someone, got on the back of the camel and was like, right, I'm going to go to America on this camel, and then didn't make it.
Walked across the ocean?
Yeah.
Well, that's Nisha's theory. The reason why there's camels in America is because around about the mid-1800s, the people who lived in America were looking for ways to help transport goods across arid areas of the country. Mm-hmm. And one of the proposed methods was to bring camels over from the Mediterranean. So what they did was they brought these camels over and they formed what was known as the Camel Corps. So there was an actual unit of the army who was riding camels. But the problem with camels is that they're not like horses. They're quite, pissy. And if
you just sit down,
if you mistreat a camel, it won't take it. It will spit at you. It'll attack you. And the stories of people having flesh ripped down to the bone because they pissed off a camel. When the American Civil War started, which was a decade or two after this thing started, they realised that they couldn't keep the camels anymore. So the corps were disbanded, and any camels that were left were either sold off at auctions or just abandoned. So this ended up with a bunch of camels. I think the number was around 30 to 70 camels that just wandered around in the deserts of Arizona. And this red camel was either one of those or a descendant of one of those.
Yeah.
But the question there, why is there someone on its back? So multiple theories to this as well. One of which is that somebody thought it may have been a prospector who ran out of water and just strapped himself to the camel hoping it would take him somewhere to be saved. But people have said, well, somebody who was that emaciated and that thirsty wouldn't have been able to strap themselves onto a camel that successfully. Another theory is that one of the soldiers who was being trained to ride the camels was scared of them. So the commanding officer was like, tie him to the camel until he's used to it. And the camel roared off and he couldn't get himself off. So he was stuck on the camel to die. There's other theories that he was strapped on because it was like a revenge thing. Like maybe he caused problems for someone. They strapped somebody on alive and pushed them. Or it was a dead body that was being paraded around as a way to say, fuck you, I win, from someone who hated them. Nobody really knows why. But I just thought that whole story is amazing. Because
it's truly bizarre.
Truly bizarre. Just because it's just so it is just genuinely so strange. And
it's weird.
With a lot of these stories, like when you look at things like Bigfoot and you look at Nessie, you don't have an answer. And this is one of those ones where they got their answer. Like, this thing was real and we know what it was and we know why it was so terrifying. Because, admit it, if you heard your friend screaming, looked out the window and saw a creature that you may never have seen before that is like twice the size of a camel with a rotting skeleton strapped to its back, presumably strapped up so it was upright, you would think what that woman thought. You would think that was some kind of monster that had come to harm you. I mean, obviously the whole story, like I'm talking about, like it's a, this like really interesting, fascinating thing. Like obviously people did die. Like a lot of these camels were mistreated, and they also, I imagine, caused a lot of problems for other people because they were just roaming. I don't think there's any of them left. I think the last known sightings were around the early half of the 20th century. So I think most of these camels have either died off or been taken in by somebody. But it's interesting, like, because it's a creature that not everyone is familiar with, it creates this story when you see it, like, what is this beast? Why is it 30 foot tall with giant black wings? So this is one of the first videos where I've done a ton of research into it. Like, Karl knows so much. Anyone who's new to the channel, Karl is the main host who's been doing this for years, or we've just stepped up now to give him a break. We've been getting people saying that we aren't as thorough, so I want to be very thorough, and I read a lot, and I did a lot of research, and I made a lot of notes. So let me know, like, in the comments, was this too much? Was it just the right amount?
It was quite a lot.
It was quite, yeah. I mean, I think I went a bit too far. I probably could have brought some bits down as well. But also, for anyone who's watched the channel for a while, my first time wearing a green top. Anyway, this has been a very long video, so I'm going to tie this off now. One thing I'm going to say, though, is that out of curiosity, I'm going to ask people who are watching this video, if you're not subscribed to the channel, could you press the subscribe button? And if you are, can you press the bell? Because one thing we keep getting like comments about is people not getting notifications. So I think ringing that bell is supposed to mean that whenever a video comes out, you get notified. And because we're going back to our 3 videos a week schedule, you will hopefully not get spammed by the channel. Because one of the reasons I don't turn the bell on in a lot of channels is because of like the content they upload every week. I might like one of the videos, but they'll upload like 5 or 6 or do live streams. And at that point, you're getting constant notifications. So I think a channel like this, where we do upload 3 times a week, and then I guess the occasional short, I don't know if shorts get notified with the bell. So I guess somebody can let us know that in the comments as well. But if you watch this to the end, thank you, and
good night.
Happy Halloween.
Okay. Sauce.